Babe of the day. Babe of the day. Andrea Martin. Quite possibly the funniest woman alive. If she's not in the number one spot, she certainly has to be in the top 5. A while back, I did a video on her SCTV colleague, Catherine O'Hara, who I love. Both of them were awesome on that show and so talented. They complemented each other, because between the both of them, they could do just about every type of female character you can think of. Andrea Martin never misses with me. She's always funny. I don't think it's possible to watch Andrea in anything without at least a smile. Where Catherine's characters have a bit more psychology behind them, Andrea's characters hit you right in the gut, without being like the old-time slapstick comedians. Andrea is a master of verbal jousting. Like Catherine, Andrea can transform herself from one person to another very easy, and you'll sometimes forget that her many characters are played by the same person. Andrea is known for playing a lot of homely characters, but is actually quite good looking. If you watch the early episodes of SCTV, Andrea will sometimes appear in her regular look. No funny makeup or costumes. She's short, but has a good figure. Her look is a bit more exotic due to her Armenian ancestry. What can be alluring can also be good for comedy. Add a bit of putty to the nose, a fake wart, a big pair of glasses, make a funny face, throw on a wig, and you have some really goofy looking characters. Unlike most of the SCTV cast, Andrea is actually American and comes from Maine. She got into drama club in high school and had that entertaining personality since early childhood. After college, she got a role in the touring version of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Especially in the early days, stage acting was Andrea's thing. She had moved to New York City, but after several visits to Toronto, she decided to relocate in 1970. This would prove to be a fateful decision and set the course of her life and career. From the start, she found steady work in television, film, and theater. In 1972, she was in a Toronto production of the musical Godspell. In 1971, she made her film debut in a comedy called Foxy Lady. It was also the film debut of her future SCTV pal, Eugene Levy. Her next film, also with Eugene, was the 1973 horror comedy Cannibal Girls. The next year got her a smaller role in the grisly horror film Black Christmas. None of this is typical Andrea Martin stuff, but it did get better, and it didn't take long. After a number of appearances on comedy TV shows, she became a core member of the sketch comedy series SCTV in 1976. She stayed with the show for the entire run through 1984. What didn't Andrea do on SCTV? She played so many different characters and did so many dead-on impersonations. Her signature character would be Edith Prickley, the station manager. Edith was homely, but hilarious. She dressed in a leopard skin hat and coat, wore rhinestone-studded glasses, and fancied herself a sexy entertainer as well as an executive. Edith was always appearing in movies and TV specials on the fictional SCTV network. There were a lot of interesting aspects to the Edith Prickley character. Too many to get into. But one that I find most interesting is her sister, Edna Boyle, also played by Andrea. Edna is an advertiser on SCTV and makes commercials for Edna's Prairie Warehouse and Curio Emporium. Of course, Edith and Edna look somewhat alike in the face and wear huge glasses. The big difference is that Edna isn't anywhere near as smart or confident as Edith. Edith has a way with words. Edna doesn't. She is often very stiff in her commercials. Edna also does a lot of shady things with her business. Edith doesn't really appear to do anything illegal. It's odd that these two get along, but they do. Edith is often the rock for Edna. Another standout character is Perini Scleroso. She's an immigrant woman dressed as plain as she can be, once again with glasses. This is a peculiar character in a lot of ways. It's uncertain if she really can't understand much English or if she's just pretending. Every once in a while, she'll surprise you by speaking fragments of perfect English in a coherent way. Perini seems to get along very well and has done everything from janitorial duty to selling her own wine. Other characters of note include the messed up kid show host Mrs. Falbo of Mrs. Falbo's Tiny Town, and Libby Wolfson, the overly dramatic women show host. Andrea's impressions are really killer. She did Barbra Streisand a number of times, sometimes calling the character Barbara Streisberg. Her Bernadette Peters was really funny and a little eerie, because I can't believe she could make her voice sound like that. Her Ethel Merman was about as loud and insane as you could get, and it hits you at 200 miles per hour. Then there was Liza Minnelli and so many others. Andrea's career didn't end with SCTV. Not by a long shot. She did other stuff during her time on the show, and especially after. In 1986, she made a couple of well-received appearances on the sitcom Kate and Allie, as a character named Eddie Gordon. It was quickly decided to give Andrea her own show. I've always had trouble acknowledging Roxy as a spin-off of Kate and Allie. Andrea's character was renamed, and the show was its own separate entity. Roxy debuted in 1987. It was the first time Andrea was given her very own series where she was the definite lead. To say this show bombed was an understatement. It aired on CBS for only 2 episodes, although 6 episodes were made. The final 4 would never be aired. The 2 episodes of Roxy that aired were only within a week's time, from April 1st to April 8th. The fact that it bombed so quickly became a joke in the media. Andrea herself would even poke fun at it bombing many years after the fact. To be honest, I don't understand why it failed. It wasn't on long enough to fail, and it wasn't a terrible show. I watched it when it originally aired and I liked it. I've got the first episode in my collection and I still like it. The show had a good cast. Andrea, as Roxy, was a TV programmer. A tip of the hat of sorts to Edith Prickley. Teresa Ganzel, who was always something to see, was in the show. Mitchell Lawrence, who played Roxy's husband, was good. Jack Riley, from the Bob Newhart Show, was here. There was really no reason why it had to be shut down so quickly. It's really quite unfortunate. But Roxy didn't keep Andrea Martin down. She still worked regularly in movies and television, although in smaller parts. The thing is, though, that Andrea's brief moments on camera were always highlights and a draw to the show. When a movie or TV show needed an extra shot of funny, Andrea was there, and she never gave a lackluster performance. She also got into voice acting quite heavily beginning in the early 1990s. In 1992, Andrea Martin was a major supporting character in a movie that I've always really enjoyed, but remains almost criminally underrated. The movie I'm talking about is Boris and Natasha, the movie. It was a live-action movie based on the popular cartoon characters. Originally made for theaters, it ended up being shown on the Showtime cable network before being released on VHS. The production of this movie had troubles from the start, but the project came out cool. First of all, the production company couldn't secure the rights to use the likenesses of Rocky and Bullwinkle for the movie. It would have been hard to use them for a live-action movie in 1992 anyway, so they decided to make Boris and Natasha the primary characters. The whole movie was an interesting concept. Boris and Natasha start out as 2 bad spies who revel in their badness. But throughout the course of the movie, they see the error in their logic and the fact that they were being played by their own government. They end up saving the world and reforming themselves in the process. Dave Thomas was Boris. Sally Kellerman was Natasha. John Calvin and Andrea Martin played their friends, Harvey and Toots, who turned out to be Agents Moose and Squirrel. It was explained that they got heavy plastic surgery. Somehow, Andrea Martin as Agent Squirrel seems quite appropriate. This movie had a big cast of name actors. It was like a mini SCTV reunion with Dave Thomas, Andrea Martin, and John Candy. There was even a cameo from June Foray, the voice of Natasha and Rocky in the cartoons. As it remains, this movie is still in obscurity, but merely from the fact that it didn't get into theaters and isn't commonly seen on TV or on home media. Try to find a copy of this movie on physical media. It's not that easy, but it's definitely worth it, because the movie is amusing with a lot of funny moments. After that, Andrea continued to work steadily and gave solid performances in everything. Some of the shows she worked on did well, and some did not. She was a regular on the sitcom The Martin Short Show in 1994. Although 13 episodes were made, only 3 were aired. It shouldn't have bombed like it did. This was another mini SCTV reunion. Eugene Levy was the director, and Martin Short was the star. I remember the show got a lot of press when it was coming out. What went wrong is hard to say. By the way, Andrea Martin and Martin Short were related, at one time, by marriage. Andrea was married to Bob Dolman, whose sister Nancy was married to Martin Short. Andrea and Bob divorced. Nancy passed in 2010. In early 1997, Andrea Martin hosted an episode of Mad TV that was outstanding. She was featured in many skits as new characters you never saw before. It proved that the well wasn't dry when it came to her talent. Then, in 1998, she was made a regular cast member of the sitcom Damon on Fox. This was another show that I know a lot of people liked, but it was canceled after 13 episodes. Andrea just didn't have a lot of luck with series. She played Police Captain Carol Chisnenko and the boss of Damon Wayans' character. This was another show with a great cast of actors that presented interesting characters. There was a lot more this show could have done. Andrea was fantastic. She was the tough police captain who desperately tried to be feminine with limited success. Even at that, she was emotionally fragile. Like Damon, who was an undercover cop, she got to take on various disguises. One time in the series, she reprises her Perini Scleroso character. This was an awesome show. Watch it by any means necessary. Andrea never stopped working, but it wasn't until 2002 that she appeared in a movie that was really, really big. It was the comedy My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and she played Aunt Voula. This would be her biggest commercial success since the SCTV days, and she returned for both of the sequels. Andrea herself has said that if anyone knows her for anything, it's probably the Big Fat Greek Wedding films. I actually know her better for a lot of other stuff, but that's just me. From 2017 to 2018, Andrea was a major cast member of the sitcom Great News. The show ran for 2 seasons on NBC, and even though it did better than most of Andrea's other TV shows, I just don't think it stands out with fans like a lot of her other work. It's set in the world of TV news, and I think people got bored with that premise a long time ago. Plus, there weren't a whole lot of other cast members in that show that could hold their own against Andrea. Andrea Martin is legitimately talented. Beginning in 2021, Andrea became a recurring character on the supernatural TV show Evil. This is a different kind of role for her, to say the least, but the character she plays is cool. Andrea is a heroic nun by the name of Sister Andrea, who is capable of seeing demons in the living world. Beginning in 2022, she became a recurring cast member of the popular comedy mystery series Only Murders in the Building. She plays Joy, the makeup artist who is the love interest of Steve Martin. Martin Short is also one of the series stars. Andrea's list of accomplishments is outstanding. Not only has she been in a lot of stuff, but she has won or been nominated for many, many awards. Andrea has won Emmys and Tonys. I don't think any actress deserves it more. She has 2 sons with her ex-husband. In 2017, she finally became a Canadian citizen. She continues to work and always dazzles audiences. I'll watch her stuff forever. A woman who can make you laugh is about the best thing ever. With Andrea Martin, it seems effortless, making her, as much as any woman, a true babe of the day. Babe of the day.